Welcome to World Information HD, where we bring you fascinating facts, rare discoveries, and the hidden treasures that might be sitting right inside your pocket change. In today's exciting video, we're diving deep into the story of one incredible coin, the United States of America 1974 no-mint Mark Lincoln 1-cent penny. Don't let its simple copper color fool you, because behind this humble-looking coin hides a fascinating story of history, mystery, and money, a story that every coin collector, treasure hunter, and history lover should know. So, sit back and relax, because we're about to uncover the surprising secrets that make the 1974 Lincoln cent one of the most talked about pennies in numismatic history. And who knows, by the end of this video, you might find yourself checking every penny you've ever owned, hoping one of them is worth a fortune. Let's begin our journey back in time, to the year 1974, a year of political change, economic uncertainty, and important transitions for the United States Mint. The Watergate scandal was dominating headlines, gas prices were climbing, and inflation was hitting hard. Every penny, quite literally, mattered to Americans. That's why the story of the 1974 Lincoln cent is so unique, because it tells not only the story of a coin, but also of a country in financial flux. In the early 1970s, the U.S. government faced a major problem. The rising cost of copper, the primary metal used to make 1-cent coins, meant that each penny was becoming too expensive to produce. Imagine that, spending more than 1 cent to make a 1-cent coin. The Treasury Department needed a solution. So, in 1973 and 1974, the U.S. Mint began experimenting with alternative materials, including aluminum and bronze-clad steel, in hopes of finding a cheaper option that still looked like a traditional penny. But not all pennies from 1974 were ordinary. While most were struck in copper, technically 95% copper and 5% zinc, a few experimental versions were created using aluminum, a lightweight metal that never made it into circulation. These rare test pieces became some of the most legendary coins in American history. Although the aluminum cents are a separate story, they help explain why 1974 pennies are so closely watched by collectors even today. Now, the 1974 no-mint Mark Lincoln cent was produced at the Philadelphia Mint, which didn't use a mint mark at that time. That's why it's called the no-mint Mark penny. But what makes this particular year's coin stand out isn't just the missing letter, it's the small variations, the hidden details, and the fascinating minting characteristics that separate an ordinary penny from one worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Let's take a closer look at the design first. The obverse, or the front, features the familiar portrait of President Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner in 1909. This design was created to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth and has since become one of the longest-running coin designs in U.S. history. Lincoln's calm and dignified profile faces right, while the word, Liberty, appears to his left. Above his head are the words, In God We Trust, and the date, 1974, appears just below. On the reverse side, we see the image of the Lincoln Memorial, designed by Frank Gasparo. If you look closely at the base of the monument, you can actually spot a tiny seated figure of Lincoln inside the memorial, a brilliant design detail that many people don't even notice without magnification. The words, United States of America, stretch along the top edge while E pluribus unum appears above the memorial, and the denomination, 1 cent, is boldly inscribed at the bottom. Now, the 1974 no-mint Mark penny is common in circulation. Millions were produced, over 4 billion, to be exact. So, what makes some of these coins so special? It's the combination of minting errors, condition, and rarity of certain variations that can turn a simple copper coin into a collector's dream. Let's start with one of the most intriguing aspects, minting errors. The 1970s were a transitional period for the U.S. Mint, and that means mistakes were bound to happen. Some 1974 pennies have double dies, where parts of the design, like the date or lettering, appear to be doubled due to misalignment during striking. Others have off-center strikes, die cracks, or planchet errors, when the metal blank wasn't prepared correctly. These types of coins can dramatically increase in value because they're one of a kind. For example, a 1974 double-die verse penny, where the doubling appears on the word Liberty or the date, can sell for hundreds of dollars, even in circulated condition. Meanwhile, a 1974 off-center penny, where the design is visibly shifted to one side, can also bring in a few hundred depending on how dramatic the error is. Then, we have the condition, one of the biggest factors in determining a coin's worth. In the world of coin collecting, condition is graded on a scale known as the Sheldon scale, which ranges from 1 to 70. A coin that has been heavily circulated might only grade around 10 or 15, meaning it shows lots of wear and scratches. But a mint state coin, meaning it has never been used in circulation, could grade anywhere between MS60 and MS70. Now, here's where things get interesting. Even a normal 1974 no-mint mark Lincoln cent can be worth much more than face value if it's in pristine condition. For instance, if your 1974 penny has full red color, meaning it still has that bright copper shine, no scratches, and sharp details, it can be worth anywhere from $20 to $100 or more, depending on the collector market. However, in certain rare cases, coins from this year in extremely high grade, like MS67 or higher, have sold for thousands of dollars at auctions. This is because it's incredibly difficult to find a 1974 penny that has survived in such flawless condition after decades of handling, storage, and oxidation. But let's talk about rarity, because rarity always catches collectors' attention. While billions of 1974 pennies were made, there are specific varieties and error types that only exist in small numbers. Some were struck on leftover planchets from previous years. Others have transitional errors, where the coin's metal composition or weight differs from the standard. And while we mentioned the famous aluminum cent earlier, a coin that was never supposed to be released, there are persistent rumors and verified cases of other unusual 1974 cents that slipped through the cracks. For example, some were struck on brass or bronze planchets intended for foreign coins, while others were mistakenly made on steel blanks. These ultra-rare specimens can reach astronomical prices when discovered. Now, you might be thinking, how can I tell if my 1974 penny is valuable? Great question. Here's what you should do: check for mint mark. If there's no letter under the date, it's from Philadelphia. That's normal, but still worth checking. Examine the coin under magnification. Look for doubling on the words Liberty, in God We Trust, or the date 1974. Doubling can indicate a valuable error. Inspect the color and surface. Bright red copper color usually means the coin was preserved well and might be worth grading. Look for weight differences. A standard 1974 penny should weigh about 3.11 grams. If it weighs less or feels unusually light, it could have been struck on an experimental planchet. Consider professional grading. Sending your coin to a grading service like PCGS or NGC can authenticate its value and condition, giving you a clear idea of its worth on the market. Many collectors also enjoy the historical value of these coins. Each penny is like a small time capsule from 1974, a year when President Richard Nixon resigned, when people were lining up at gas stations, and when the mint itself was experimenting with change, both literally and figuratively. Over the years, the 1974 no-mint mark Lincoln cent has gained a loyal following among collectors because it represents the end of an era. After 1982, the U.S. Mint officially changed the penny's composition to mostly zinc with a thin copper coating, making the older, heavier copper coins from the 1970s even more desirable. And here's something fascinating. Coin enthusiasts believe that some 1974 cents were part of small batches that were struck under unique conditions, like test runs or machine recalibrations, making certain minor variations incredibly rare. Even a slight difference in the spacing of the lettering or the shape of the mint date could mean your coin is special. So, the next time you empty your wallet or check your coin jar, pay attention to those older Lincoln cents. That dull-looking 1974 penny sitting quietly in the corner might not be so ordinary after all. You might just be holding a little piece of history, and possibly a coin worth far more than you ever imagined. Welcome back to World Information HD, the place where hidden treasures, forgotten history, and shocking coin discoveries come to life. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most overlooked coins in American pocket change, the 1980 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny. At first glance, it may look like an ordinary penny, something you might toss into a jar or drop at the counter without a second thought. But what if I told you that this little copper coin could be worth thousands of dollars today? Yes, that small, unassuming penny in your collection, or even in your loose change, could hold a secret fortune. So, let's explore the fascinating story, history, varieties, and incredible values of the 1980 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin that has shocked collectors and treasure hunters around the world. Let's begin with the background. The year was 1980, a time when the United States was going through major economic and political shifts. Inflation was high, gas prices were climbing, and the American Mint was producing billions of coins to keep up with demand. During this period, the Lincoln cent, one of America's most iconic coins, continued its long and proud tradition. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the Lincoln cent was first introduced in 1909 to celebrate the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln. Over the decades, this coin has seen changes in design, metal composition, and even minting errors that made some editions incredibly valuable. By 1980, the U.S. Mint was still using the 95% copper and 5% zinc composition, the classic bronze alloy that gives older pennies their distinctive reddish-brown color. This was before the big change in 1982 when the Mint switched to a mostly zinc composition. So, every 1980 penny is still made of real copper, which in itself makes it slightly more special than modern pennies. Now let's talk about that small but important detail, the no-mint mark. When you look closely at a penny, you'll usually see a tiny letter below the date, a D for Denver, an S for San Francisco, or no letter at all for Philadelphia. The mint mark tells you where the coin was made. The 1980 no-mint mark penny was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which, at the time, did not place a mint mark on its coins. But not all no-mint mark coins are created equal. Most of them are ordinary and worth only a cent. Yet, a few have been discovered with extremely sharp details, proof-like surfaces, and even subtle errors that make them stand out, and these rare examples have sold for astonishing amounts of money in auctions. Collectors and coin enthusiasts are always searching for hidden varieties and error coins, and the 1980 Lincoln penny is no exception. Some of the most valuable 1980 no-mint mark pennies are those with minting mistakes. For example, double die averse DDO. This is one of the most sought-after errors, where the lettering, date, or even Lincoln's portrait appears doubled. Under magnification, you can clearly see a shadow effect or doubling around the letters I in God we trust, Liberty, or the numbers in the date 1980. These coins can sell for hundreds or even thousands depending on the clarity and preservation of the doubling. Off-center strike. Sometimes, the coin is not properly aligned in the press, resulting in part of the design missing or shifted off-center. The more dramatic the error, especially those around 40% to 60% off, the higher the value. Blockage errors. These are fascinating mistakes where one coin presses against another, leaving a mirrored or blank impression. A 1980 penny with a clear blockage can be worth several $100s. Cut errors and die cracks. Small raised blobs or cracks appearing on Lincoln's face, coat, or the rim of the coin are also highly collectible. These happen when part of the die breaks off during minting. Each of these mistakes makes a coin one of a kind, which is exactly why collectors go crazy for them. But what about condition? That's where things get even more interesting. Coin grading plays a massive role in determining value. A 1980 no-mint mark penny that's been in circulation, the kind you might find in your change, might only be worth a few cents. However, a penny that has never been used, showing full luster, crisp detail, and no scratches, can be worth far more. Professional coin grading services like PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, and NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Company, assign grades based on condition. The top of the scale, Mint State 70, MS 70, means a perfect coin with no flaws even under magnification. Even an MS 65 or MS 66 grade can turn a once penny into a multi-$100 treasure point. One of the most beautiful aspects of coin collecting is how something so small can carry such history and hidden value. Every tiny scratch, Every mark, every gleam tells a story of time, circulation, and preservation. Now, let's step back in time for a moment. Imagine Philadelphia in 1980, the echoing clatter of coin presses, the shimmer of freshly minted copper, and workers inspecting thousands of new pennies rolling off the machines. Among the billions produced that year, only a handful came out in flawless condition, with full details, perfect luster, and sharp strikes. Some of those coins, unknown to the mint workers, would one day become the prized possessions of collectors worldwide. As time went on, these coins entered circulation, mixed with millions of ordinary pennies. Decades later, sharp-eyed treasure hunters started noticing that certain 1980 no-mint mark pennies had unusual brilliance and perfect details, especially those preserved in mint sets or coin rolls. When these were sent for professional grading, they stunned the numismatic world with their high values and demand. But what truly makes this coin fascinating isn't just its metal or date, it's the stories behind the discoveries. Collectors have shared countless tales of finding valuable 1980 pennies in the most unexpected places: an old jar in the attic, a forgotten piggy bank, or even loose change from a grocery store. One collector once found a nearly perfect 1980 no-mint mark penny while sifting through a batch of pennies purchased from a bank. It later graded MS67 red and sold for thousands at auction. Stories like these fuel the dreams of everyday people hoping to uncover hidden wealth in their spare change. It's proof that even in the most ordinary corners of life, extraordinary treasures can still be found. Now let's talk about how to spot the most valuable 1980 no-mint mark pennies. When checking your pennies, here's what to look for. No mint mark below the date. This confirms it's from Philadelphia. Strong details on Lincoln's hair and beard. The sharper the details, the higher the grade potential. Bright copper red color. Collectors love that original reddish tone. If it hasn't turned brown, it's likely been well preserved. Error indicators. Look for doubling on the letters, missing elements, or off-center strikes. No signs of wear or damage. Even the smallest scratch can drop the grade significantly. If you find a penny that fits these features, handle it carefully. Use gloves or hold it by the edges. Store it in a protective coin holder and, if it looks exceptionally clean and bright, consider sending it for grading. You might just have a rare gem on your hands. Another factor that influences the price is demand among collectors. Certain years, like 1980, mark the end of the full copper era before the 1982 metal composition change. That makes 1980 pennies particularly desirable. Collectors see them as the last true copper cents, a closing chapter of American minting history. Over the years, auction records for high-grade 1980 pennies have steadily climbed. Online bidding wars often break out for coins with perfect color and no carbon spots. Even small differences in toning, like a brilliant red versus red-brown, can mean hundreds of dollars in value difference. In addition to traditional collectors, many new investors are entering the hobby. Why? Because coins like the 1980 no-mint mark penny are tangible pieces of history, small, portable, and surprisingly valuable. Unlike stocks or digital assets, coins carry a sense of permanence, beauty, and nostalgia. Every coin represents a slice of America's story, from mint presses in Philadelphia to the pockets of millions of people. So when you hold a 1980 penny, you're not just holding metal, you're holding a moment in time. You're holding decades of craftsmanship, art, and history, all captured in a single coin. Now, here's a secret that most people don't realize. Not all 1980 no-mint mark pennies were created equal. Some show weak strikes, slightly off-center lettering, or tiny die chips that went unnoticed by the mint. Others are perfectly struck, with razor-sharp features and glowing copper luster. It's these small variations that make one coin worth 1 cent, and another worth thousands. Collectors often describe the thrill of finding one as modern-day treasure hunting. Welcome back to World Information HD. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most fascinating and surprisingly valuable coins that many people overlook: the 1996 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny. At first glance, it looks like any ordinary penny you might find lying in your pocket change. But hidden among these copper-plated zinc coins are a few remarkable examples that have sold for truly jaw-dropping prices. So, Before you toss that change jar or spend that penny at the store, you might want to take a closer look, because one of these small coins could be worth thousands of dollars. Let's start by taking a step back into history. The year 1996. The United States was entering a new digital age. The internet was beginning to take shape, technology was advancing rapidly, and yet the U.S. Mint was still producing billions of humble Lincoln cents, continuing a tradition that had begun in 1909. The penny featuring President Abraham Lincoln had already become one of the most iconic coins in American history. By 1996, the penny had gone through decades of design consistency, with only small changes along the way. But even the smallest imperfection during minting could create a rare and valuable variety. That's what makes coin collecting so exciting. One tiny mistake, one slight variation, or one perfect condition coin can transform a 1-cent piece into something worth a fortune. Now, let's talk about the 1996 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, and what makes it so special. First, you should know that the no-mint mark variety comes from the Philadelphia Mint. Coins produced there typically don't have a mint mark, which is why you'll see nothing under the date. Meanwhile, coins minted in Denver have a small D mark, and coins from San Francisco show an S. So when you find a 1996 penny without any mint mark, that doesn't necessarily mean it's rare by itself. It simply means it was made in Philadelphia. However, what makes certain 1996 no mint mark pennies valuable are their condition, minting errors, and scarcity in high grades. Imagine millions of pennies rolling off the mint presses, each being struck thousands of times per hour. With that kind of volume, even small misalignments, doubled designs, or mechanical slips could occur, and those tiny imperfections can turn an everyday coin into a collector's dream. One of the most sought-after varieties is the double die obverse. This happens when the coin's design is accidentally impressed twice at slightly different angles, causing visible doubling on the letters, numbers, or even Lincoln's face. Collectors love these kinds of mistakes because they are one of a kind, and they showcase the artistry, and sometimes the flaws, of the minting process. Another variety that excites collectors is the off-center strike. Imagine a penny where part of the design is missing because the coin blank wasn't properly aligned in the press. These can range from minor misalignments to dramatic errors where half of the design is missing. The more off-center it is while still showing the date clearly, the more valuable it becomes. There are also die cracks and cuds, which happen when a piece of the die used to strike the coin breaks off or cracks, leaving raised lines or blobs of metal on the coin's surface. These are considered mint errors, and depending on their size and visibility, they can significantly increase a penny's value. But even without errors, certain 1996 no-mint mark Lincoln pennies can be worth a lot simply because of their grade, or condition. Most pennies circulate heavily, rubbing against other coins and losing their mint luster. But if a coin somehow survives untouched, remaining crisp, shiny, and perfectly detailed, that's where serious money comes into play. Professional grading services like PCGS and NGC evaluate coins based on their condition, assigning them a grade from 1 to 70 on the Sheldon scale. A coin graded MS-70, mint state 70, is considered absolutely flawless. No scratches, no blemishes, no imperfections under magnification. Those are extremely rare. A typical 1996 penny in your pocket might be worth just 1 cent. But an uncirculated, perfectly preserved example, one that looks exactly as it did the moment it left the mint press, can be worth hundreds, even thousands of dollars to the right collector. Let's look at some interesting details that make the 1996 penny unique among its series. By this time, the U.S. Mint had fully transitioned from the older 95% copper composition used before 1982 to the newer 97.5% zinc and 2.5% copper plating. These newer pennies are lighter and slightly more prone to damage, corrosion, or discoloration over time. That's why finding a 1996 penny in pristine, bright red condition is so uncommon, and why those few that remain untouched have become highly desirable. Collectors also pay attention to strike quality. Some coins, even if uncirculated, might be weakly struck, meaning the details on Lincoln's face or the lettering might not be fully sharp. But when a coin has a full, strong strike, every line of Lincoln's hair, Every detail in the memorial building on the reverse side, and every letter of "In God We Trust" stands out sharply. Those are the coins that grading companies reward with top grades, and those are the coins that command the biggest prices at auctions. Now, here's where the story gets truly fascinating. Across America, ordinary people have discovered rare pennies hiding in plain sight. Some collectors have stumbled upon a brilliant, uncirculated 1996 no-mint mark penny sitting in an old jar of coins, later finding out that it was worth far more than they ever imagined. Stories like these inspire thousands of people to start checking their pocket change and searching their coin collections more carefully. So, what should you look for if you think you might have a valuable 1996 penny? Here are a few key tips. Examine the coin's surface. If it's shiny, bright red, and free from scratches, fingerprints, or dullness, you might have an uncirculated piece. Check for doubling. Look closely at the date, especially the numbers 1 and 9, and the letters in Liberty. If you see any shadow-like outlines or doubling, it could be a double die, one of the most desirable varieties. Inspect for errors. Look for anything unusual, such as parts of the design missing, raised metal bumps, or lines cutting through the coin, all signs of possible mint errors. Weigh your coin. Most 1996 pennies should weigh about 2.5 grams. If it's significantly heavier, it could mean it was struck on an older copper planchet by mistake, which would make it extremely valuable. Consider grading. If your coin looks mint fresh, it might be worth sending to a professional grading service. A small investment in grading could yield an incredible return if your coin receives a top score. Collectors today are paying big money for top-grade examples. In auctions, some 1996 no-mint mark Lincoln pennies graded MS-68 or higher have fetched stunning prices, far beyond what anyone would expect for such a recent coin. And while not every penny will reach that level, it's always worth checking, because the difference between a common coin and a rare treasure can be as simple as condition and luck. There's also something deeper about these coins, a reminder of history and craftsmanship. Each penny tells a story. The 1996 Lincoln penny not only represents a piece of currency but also symbolizes over a century of American minting tradition. Abraham Lincoln's portrait, originally designed by Victor David Brenner, has graced the cent for more than 100 years, making it the longest-running coin design in U.S. history. Every detail, from Lincoln's stoic expression to the carefully engraved lettering, carries a sense of legacy and pride. Collectors often describe finding a high-grade Lincoln penny as discovering a small time capsule, a perfectly preserved piece of history that connects the past with the present. Imagine holding a coin that's nearly 3 decades old but still looks as if it was minted yesterday. That's the magic of coin collecting, the thrill of uncovering something extraordinary in something ordinary. So, before you dismiss that pile of change, grab a magnifying glass and start looking. Check every penny, every detail, every shine, because who knows? You might just be holding a miniature fortune in your hand. It's worth mentioning that, in recent years, coin collecting has seen a huge surge in popularity, thanks to online marketplaces and social media. People are sharing their finds, learning to identify valuable varieties, and selling their rare coins to passionate collectors worldwide. What used to be a quiet hobby has now become an exciting hunt for treasure, and the 1996 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is one of the hidden gems in that hunt. Even experts admit that not all varieties have been fully discovered yet. There may still be undiscovered double dies or rare off-metal strikes out there, waiting for someone like you to find them. Welcome back to World Information HD, the channel where knowledge meets curiosity, and where every coin tells a story worth thousands, or even millions, of dollars. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most fascinating and surprising coins from modern U.S. coinage, the 2018 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny. At first glance, this coin may seem completely ordinary, just another shiny copper-colored penny you might find rolling around in your pocket, in a cash register drawer, or lying forgotten under your car seat. But what if I told you that one of these unassuming coins has shocked collectors and numismatists by fetching an incredible amount of money in the collector's market? Stay tuned, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly why this common-looking penny is turning heads and making wallets heavier. Now, before you dismiss this as just another regular Lincoln cent, let's take a step back in time to understand how the 2018 no mint mark penny came into existence, and why its details make it worth examining under a magnifying glass. The 2018 Lincoln cent continues a long and rich tradition in American coinage, one that started way back in 1909, when the very first Lincoln penny was struck to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. Designed by Victor David Brenner, that historic coin was the first U.S. coin to feature a real person, President Lincoln himself. Over the decades, this humble 1-cent piece has undergone design changes, metal composition shifts, and minting innovations. Yet, through it all, it has remained one of the most iconic coins ever produced by the United States Mint. Fast forward to 2018. The coin in question, the 2018 Lincoln cent, features the same timeless portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, or front, of the coin. It shows Lincoln facing right, with the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," arching above his head, "Liberty," to his left, and the year 2018, neatly placed to the right. At first glance, it looks like every other modern penny in circulation. But look closely, and you'll notice something missing: the mint mark. You see, most coins in the United States are struck with small letters indicating where they were produced. Coins made in Denver have a D mint mark. Those from San Francisco often have an S. And coins from Philadelphia typically have a P. However, Philadelphia mint pennies, unless they are from a special commemorative year, usually carry no mint mark at all. That means the absence of a mint mark doesn't always mean something is wrong. But in some cases, it does, and that's what keeps collectors on their toes. In the case of the 2018 no mint mark Lincoln cent, what sets certain examples apart isn't simply the lack of a mint mark, it's the condition, the strike quality, and in some rare cases, subtle minting errors that make them extraordinarily valuable. Now, before we go into the details of how this penny reached such a jaw-dropping value, let's talk about the coin's composition. Since 1982, Lincoln cents have been primarily composed of 97.5% zinc and 2.5% copper, with a thin copper plating giving them their familiar reddish hue. Although this change from solid copper to zinc was made to reduce production costs, it also introduced new possibilities for minting errors, including plating cracks, die breaks, off-center strikes, and even missing details due to uneven metal distribution. Collectors love coins like this because they capture moments of imperfection in an otherwise highly controlled minting process. And when those imperfections occur on a coin that's still in circulation, it becomes a treasure hunt for the observant eye. Now, imagine finding a penny in your pocket change that looks completely normal. But upon closer inspection, under proper lighting and magnification, you notice something unusual. Perhaps the lettering on Liberty appears slightly doubled. Or maybe the date shows subtle signs of doubling, known in the numismatic world as a double die error. These varieties can transform a coin's value from a single cent to hundreds, or even thousands of dollars. In the case of the 2018 no mint mark Lincoln penny, certain specimens have exhibited die cracks along Lincoln's shoulder or the rim of the coin, known to collectors as cuds. These small raised lumps of metal occur when part of the die used to strike the coin breaks off, leaving a void that fills with metal on subsequent strikes. The result? A distinct and collectible mint error that can dramatically increase the coin's worth. There are also examples of 2018 Lincoln cents showing partial or complete die clashes, where the designs from the obverse and reverse dies accidentally imprint onto one another without a planchet between them. These errors are visually fascinating, often showing faint outlines of Lincoln's profile mirrored on the reverse side, or segments of the shield design subtly appearing behind Lincoln's head. But the story doesn't stop at mint errors. Another major factor influencing this coin's value is its condition. A penny fresh from a bankroll might look shiny, but under a microscope, tiny contact marks or scratches can make a world of difference. Coins graded as MS-67 or MS-68, mint state, meaning uncirculated and near perfect, are exceedingly rare. Even among millions of coins minted, only a handful achieve such pristine quality. Professional grading services such as PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, and NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, evaluate coins using strict criteria. They look for sharp details, brilliant luster, and minimal surface marks. A 2018 Lincoln penny graded at MS68 or higher, with no mint mark, can command astounding prices at auctions, particularly if it exhibits additional unique features like die chips, double strikes, or exceptional luster. Now, let's talk about how this particular coin captured the attention of collectors across the United States. In early 2019, reports began circulating in online forums and coin communities about a small number of 2018 no-mint mark Lincoln cents selling for remarkable prices. Initially, collectors assumed these were just overenthusiastic sales, but as time went on, experts began to confirm that certain high-grade coins were indeed extremely scarce. Why? Because even though billions of pennies are produced each year, the chance of a flawless, perfectly struck example surviving circulation, especially from Philadelphia, is extremely low. The Philadelphia Mint, known for high-volume production, occasionally lets minor imperfections pass through due to sheer scale. That means that flawless examples stand out even more when discovered. So what should you look for if you come across a 2018 penny with no mint mark? First, examine the date and lettering carefully for signs of doubling or stretching. Then, look around Lincoln's coat, shoulder, and the rim for any raised metal or cracks that seem out of place. Check the reverse side, the shield design, for missing lines or weak strikes. Finally, pay close attention to the overall shine and sharpness of the coin. If it looks unusually well made and almost mirror-like, it might be worth sending it to a grading service for evaluation. Many collectors have made the mistake of spending rare coins simply because they didn't think they were worth more than face value. Some of the most valuable modern pennies were found by complete accident, tucked away in jars, drawers, or even soda machines. The thrill of finding a coin worth thousands in your spare change has turned thousands of people into casual coin hunters overnight. And while most 2018 pennies might still only be worth 1 cent, a handful of exceptional ones have rewritten that rule. In particular, one 2018 no-mint mark Lincoln cent in pristine mint state, with nearly perfect details and flawless surfaces, stunned the collecting world when it sold for an astonishing amount of money at a major auction. It's this exact story that reminds us why coin collecting remains such a fascinating and rewarding hobby. It's not just about finding old coins, it's about recognizing that even the most recent issues can carry hidden treasures. The U.S. Mint's production technology has improved over the decades, but errors, rarity, and perfect conditions continue to create standout pieces that defy expectations. So next time you receive change from a grocery store, a vending machine, or a gas station, take a moment to look closer. You never know, that small copper penny might just hold a piece of American history, and a secret fortune. Think about it, a coin that has traveled through countless hands, sat in pockets and jars, and jingled through cash registers could one day be your key to a rare and valuable find. Always remember, it's not just about old coins. Sometimes, even the newest ones can surprise you beyond belief.